everybody. Welcome. Thank you for staying on to the last panel. And we're going to talk about commercialization of pre- and postnatal health platforms. We're going to take the liberty of modifying that a little bit and talk about not just pre- and postnatal, although that could be synonymous with the life course, but let's explicitly say the life course for women and platforms that cover the entire life course. And today I have on this panel, Susan Nicholson from J&J, Carrie Young from Gynii, and Melinda Nicci from Baby to Body. And they will each introduce themselves very briefly, because you have their bios a click away on your screen. Susan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Susan Nicholson. I'm the Vice President of the Health of Women team in the Office of the Chief Medical Officer at Johnson & Johnson.
Carrie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Young. I'm the Founding Director at Gynii. We are fertility business.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melinda Nicci, and I'm CEO and founder of Baby to Body, which is a women's wellness platform focusing on the reproductive stage of a woman's life, conception, pregnancy, and postpartum.
So as you can see, we have three very diverse representatives of this ecosystem. I'm going to start with Susan. You have a very provocative title in the industry. Vice President of Women's Health. I mean, that's and at J&J no less. Could you please tell us what that role entails?
So thank you. I love being provocative. Having somebody else appreciate that is helpful. I created this role with the support of our Chief Medical Officer, and it really was for two reasons. The first reason is that I became aware of the maternal mortality crisis in the United States. And I was just so shocked that we could have the highest maternal mortality in the developed world, and nobody was freaking out. So I thought, well, then we should freak out and see if we could do something to catalyze some acceleration and solutions. So that was one reason. And as I started to look into why is it that women don't do well in the pregnancy journey, it really comes down to underlying health and the fact that the healthcare industry could do a much better job serving the health needs of women. And, you know, Johnson & Johnson is a products and services company. We don't run the whole shebang, but we felt that the size of the company and the history we have in the health of women and infant health, family health, that really was incumbent upon us to step up and see what we can do to catalyze change. And that's why we're here. And, you know, whatever it takes, we're going to try to make some things happen.
I'm a little puzzled because am I not correct that you're out of J&J's out of the reproductive health business?
Yes, more or less we are. We do have some minor products in contraception that we still sell through our pharmaceutical business. So I think there are two things, and I'm trying to reconcile this myself. My title is Vice President of Women's Health, and I didn't realize when I named that that people think of women's health as just reproductive health and organ-specific health. And I was really thinking about the health of women holistically. So not just reproductive health and having babies, but cardiovascular disease, mental health, immunologic disease, and really thinking about women as unique biologic entities. Yes, reproductive health is very important, but J&J is not fundamentally in that business the way we were in the past, but we certainly serve women around the world with, you know, many different types of products. So we're a little bit on both sides of that equation.
That's a wonderful answer, Susan, because I'm very interested in the ways that men and women are different biologically, in addition to the very obvious part of women's health, which is our reproductive capacity and reproductive organs. So thank you for broadening that tent. May I ask you, does that mean that I can anticipate J&J coming up with different products, drugs for women and men in cardiac disease, where we know of the differences, or in autoimmune diseases? Is this a sign that there is actually a pharma company that's saying we're going to embrace these biological differences?
Absolutely, and that is job one for us. And I'll give you an example. We have some assets in multiple sclerosis, and that is a disease that affects young women in their 20s, so very relevant to reproductive health and really working with women in their life journey to optimize their ability to fulfill their hopes and dreams. But that's not just a given. You have to study that. You have to work with women to understand what does it mean to them to have more or less fatigue. How are they thinking about taking their medication in and around a pregnancy episode? Should they stop their medication? Should they continue their medication? What do we know about safety and efficacy? So absolutely, we are actively working on developing out that data to illustrate women as unique entities, biologically, but also life needs.
Wonderful. So therein also comes sex and gender, terms I like to define, and because they're different and sometimes they're used interchangeably. So we think of sex as the biological differences and gender as a social construct, is the ecosystem, social ecosystem in which we live. Thank you. So let's go now right to reproductive health, the heart of it. Carrie, tell us about your company and what you do.
Okay, great, thank you. So we're a fertility business. The company was founded about 3 years ago, and actually was linked a bit my personal experience. So before Gynii, I was working in the financial services sector for more than 10 years. And during those years, I always knew that I wanted to start a family, but I think working in a male-dominated environment and having a very demanding work schedule, I knew I had to look at options for myself in terms of my career and a family. So having been through that kind of struggle myself for years, and also having seen quite a lot of my old colleagues experience the same struggle, I kept telling myself there must be something I can do. And that's how Gynii was created, with the goal to support women and men on their journey to parenthood. So in terms of our service offering, there's 2 groups of people we support. For those who find it difficult to conceive, we provide tailored medical and emotional support at every stage of their fertility treatment journey. But for those who currently not considering starting a family, but will do at some point in their life, we have built a fertility awareness program for them. It was designed to help people understand their fertility at a much earlier stage, so they can plan early and take control of their fertility health. And beyond this, we're also offering a community where women and couples can share their experiences and also provide support on their journey to parenthood. So as of today, we have supported a few hundreds of women and couples in the UK and China. We are also launching a couple of new products to help us expand our business globally to support more women and couples.
So if I understand it correctly, it's not a bricks and mortar business, it's an online platform, and you then work with the different fertility clinics, if I understand correctly.
So that's one of the service we're offering. But as I mentioned earlier, I think one of the core things we are trying to achieve through the platform is raise fertility awareness. As you probably know that, there hasn't been major advancements in the fertility science over the last decade. And the average success rate of fertility treatment, mainly IVF, around 30% around the globe. So we have seen business that trying to use big data to improve success rates. However, it's still at an early stage. So what we are trying to achieve at Gynii is that to look at a preventative care, help women and men understand, how you can start to plan early, so that you don't have to having the same struggle when it comes to fertility, to look at both career and family options. And also in terms of looking at their own health, at an early stage, what are the things you can do? Do you have a healthy lifestyle? How about your hormone levels? Is it balanced hormone you're having? And also any other things that could potentially impact your fertility.
Right, and I appreciate the preventive position of the earlier you get pregnant, the better your odds are. So I assume you're trying to get people to think about it earlier, and also egg freezing as well as part of the possibilities. And could you talk about egg freezing in outside of the US, especially in China?
Absolutely. So I think over the last probably 5 years or so, egg freezing has becoming an option that more and more women start to look at. And that's for a number of reasons. I think more and more women start to focus on their career, delay motherhood, and also just there's so many women find it quite difficult to find the right partner. So egg freezing has becoming a very obvious option for women. However, there are pros and cons of egg freezing. For example, egg freezing is definitely not an insurance for women, and it also depends on at which age you started to looking at egg freezing, and egg freezing is not something definitely for every single woman. So I think for women, it's really important to understand that kind of the risks and also the potential impact before they actually do egg freezing. There's different policies and different options, different countries. So in countries like China, social egg freezing is not available, which means that any woman who wants to preserve their fertility, they have to travel abroad. So UK, US and Thailand are the kind of the main options for many women in China if they are interested in social egg freezing.
Great, thank you. And I love your dog. Melinda.
So sorry.
Well, I have 2 dogs next to me. And so the reason I'm calling out your dog is because mine may bark and then I won't feel so bad. Melinda, tell us about Baby to Body and also how what your business model is.
Yeah, sure. So Baby to Body is essentially a software.
Sorry.
It's we have an application, it's a platform, and the app helps women with personalized guidance right through their conception period. So they're trying to conceive through pregnancy and postpartum. And the idea behind it is that women get this personalized daily advice and guidance so that we help them right through that whole process. So when it comes to conception, trying to conceive, we've got a cycle tracker. So we encourage women to start tracking their cycle as early as possible. And then we help them to give them sort of the right guidance on their nutrition, their fitness, and their mental health all along that journey. So in their conception journey. So we don't deal with infertility, but we really try and help people to optimize their health and wellness physically and mentally so that they can actually fall pregnant easier. And then we take them right through pregnancy as well. So each week, they just need to update the app and tell us that they're pregnant, when their due date is, and then we automate that information. But it's based on who they are specifically. So it's quite personalized, and it's also based on sort of some of the data that they give us. And we've just introduced a new tracking feature as well, which women can track all of their healthy habits and all of their movement and anything they do for their mental health in the app and outside of the app as well, which means that we can then try and encourage them to change their behavior. So it's all about sort of nudging healthier lifestyle behaviors right through this period. And then we stay with them postpartum as well. So postpartum, if they tell us when they've had their baby, we update their guidance and information on the growth of the baby, the cognitive development of the baby, and then what they should be doing if they're nursing and breastfeeding or not, their nutrition component and their fitness and their mental health. And actually we launched just with pregnancy first, and then we extended it into postpartum in 2019, and then in 2020 we launched the conception product. And that's been driven from the market. So, you know, women have wanted to have this companion, like kind of wellness and lifestyle fitness guidance. And also we provide a lot of sort of, you know, take the anxiety and the questions around, you know, what should I be doing? When should I have my tests? What to expect right through that whole stage. And I think what's interesting is it's such a global experience because we've got women in 125 countries. So, you know, they all go through this whole motherhood experience in a very similar way, but then also in a very different way because all of their healthcare is so different in all the countries. But I think fundamentally as mothers, I think it's an interesting sort of, you know, and a global and universal experience, which is great. And then I have to mention that we've just brought out a book as well. So you know, as a companion to the app, and it's called Nourish, and it's essentially a nutritional guide to this whole period. So looking at gut health, microbiomes, the psychology of having a healthier relationship with food, understanding how to use food to nourish you and to give you all the essential vitamins and minerals that you need right through this period. And then of course, we've got our best recipes as well. So that's unique also in that it's personalized. So everybody gets their personalized copy with their name on. So yeah, we're trying to make this much more personalized so that people feel, you know, women can feel empowered, and also, you know, not take that whole anxiety out of it, and to bring some joy back to this whole process as well.
You're on mute.
To make it joyous and something enjoyable. So I'm struck by the fact that all three of you are working across geographic boundaries. And so you have to deal with many different cultures and also potentially different biology in people across the world. I've often wondered, there are no real data that I have been able to find, but whether for example, the fertility window is different in different ethnic groups, for example, is something that I am curious about. But how do you address the different ethnic groups that you work with, or the cultures that you work with? I won't ask Susan because I think that J&J has feet on the ground and a lot of help in their marketing, but how do two small companies, relatively small companies, deal with this, the different geographies, especially when you're both personalizing or individualizing as much as possible? Melinda.
So for us, we take geography into account when it comes to food and when it comes to the maternal care that they get and the health care that they get, but we don't take ethnic differences into account yet. But you know, we're still quite early in our development, and we're just gathering so much data. So we have a huge amount of data on all of these women, how they live, what their concerns are, what they're doing, how they're living, because they track everything on the app. So we're able to look at that data and extract insights around, you know, what do US mothers do or mothers to be do versus Indian mothers, right? So we're, you know, so we have that ability to do that. The problem is that we have a huge amount of data and not enough time and resources to dive into that data. But we will be doing a fundraise quite soon. And that's one of the areas that I'm really interested in, is we have all, you know, hundreds of millions of data points about all of these women and how they live, and how can we best serve them by looking at their data and understanding, you know, a little bit more about their needs and problems and solve them for them. So we're on our journey to get there. We're not quite there yet, but I mean, right up until now, what we've done is we've, all of the data that we collect, we then use that to make decisions based on what's the best thing for our users. So it drives our product roadmap, it drives our insights, it drives our marketing insights, and it also drives a lot of the content creation that we do as well. So we create all of our own content. Everything's done in-house. So we can see what the trends are. And certainly last year, through COVID, there was the anxiety, mental health was at its all-time, a high in terms of like the need, and that whole anxiety around, well, my hospital appointments have been cancelled and I cannot see my GP in person. So, giving them that, the woman, and we were lucky, and it was timing for us as well. We had the platform and we were ready. So we were able to actually serve them.
So you mentioned that COVID was actually good for your business.
Commercially, and yes, we have grown a lot. Yes. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I want to ask Susan, as the potential exit for companies like yours. You have many exit opportunities, but since you, Melinda, have venture funding, you need to give your investors an exit in some way, shape, or form. It could be an IPO, it could be an acquisition by a larger company. And I want to ask Susan, when you look at companies that you want to acquire, and I mean this generically, as not you, but as J&J, especially when you're looking at this relatively new digital space, how do you parse the universe? Do you want the companies to be global, like there's Melinda's company is? Do you want them to be a broad platform so that you can slot in very many different products? One of the things that I think about as an investor and also as a user is how is a woman going to use 10 different apps that deal with 10 different issues that are of importance to her? And many people have multiple conditions. And how does that get integrated? That's one question. That's from the user point of view, but also from the acquirer point of view. And then the other part is on the data that is collected. Melinda, you spoke several times about these data, and there has been the promise of these data being very useful and valuable to acquirers. Susan, could you talk about those two aspects and how you think about that?
So yes, and this is my opinion. I'm not one of the commercial leaders, but I'm a technical person, being a physician and a scientist. But I'm often asked my opinion if ever anything around the women's health of women's space comes along. People are asking me or someone on my team's opinion. To me, there always has to be some benefit to the woman who's using whatever technology or product that is being served. So some measurable, demonstrable health benefit. And I think that's for two reasons. Number one, we're a healthcare company, but number two, it also is the reason that women will want to come to that solution. So when you're talking about a digital platform, if it's not considered to be valuable or life enhancing, you're not going to have a lot of usership, right? So that I think is critical. There has to be a real demonstrable benefit to women, and that is evidenced by usership. And with regard to who is the audience, I would love for one app to do everything, but that's just not practical because I hate all the little icons on my phone. Like, what is this? I don't remember this. And especially in the pregnancy journey, women are, look, I don't know because they're not apps in my sort of life journey that did pregnancy related stuff. But I've heard from young women who are young mothers and have used apps during their pregnancy that it's overwhelming. You feel this compulsion to have all the good apps, right? And be the best mother and have the best pregnancy. But it is something that I think women struggle with, deciding what should I use, what shouldn't I use, should I try to use them all? So I do think something that's got a reasonable span of functionality without, and covers enough areas for mom, for woman, that she doesn't feel like she needs a gazillion other apps. And the more functionality there is, again, that brings in more usership. And so at the end of the day, we're trying to improve the health of women, also have a positive business model, and we're looking for synergy with other products and service lines that we have. So it's really those three things. So usership, health benefits, and synergy with other businesses that we have. You're on mute.
Carrie, I believe you don't have a VC backer, you have a strategic backer. And the reason I bring this up is the kind of investor you have is very relevant to the kind of business model and exit and commercialization strategy. So could you talk a little bit about your commercialization strategy and where you're trying to go? The topic here is commercialization. I've been steering you all over the map and not to commercialization. So I should come back to commercialization. Perhaps you could talk a little bit about your business model and how you are looking at growing your company.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, we're not funded by VC, but we're funded by a leading fertility clinic group in the UK. They're our strategic investor. We're kind of very much aligned in terms of what we want to build in terms of transforming the reproductive health industry. There's so many opportunities we need to capture and also so many challenges we need to address, I think, in the next few years. When it comes to business model, at the current stage, we provide services online and offline. For example, for patients who need offline support, we actually charge a premium service fee in terms of from the very beginning, for example, helping them going to attend consultations with them and also even going to every single procedures with them physically. So that's where our current business model is. But we are, as I mentioned, we are also building a community where we hope more and more people can start sharing their experiences and also insights on their journey to parenthood. So we have partnered with a number of, you can call it either key opinion leaders or influencers from all different parts of the world. So the commercialization would be, there will be a premium membership fees for anyone who using the community in the long term, because it just not just the support they can also get all different kind of expert support in terms of their diet, nutrition, well-being, mental health, everything that is relevant to their reproductive health.
So Carrie, in addition to being an online platform, does everybody it's a membership model, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
And does everybody who's a member have an app as well?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And then once do they stay with you after they get pregnant too?
So that's a very good question. At the moment, no, because everything we're looking at is kind of just at that reproductive stage, trying to get pregnant. So we have been looking at this to see, how we can get women continue to stay on the journey. So that's kind of our next stage. Once they're getting pregnant, how we can also support the pregnancy stage, because there's so many things quite similar, like, before you're trying to when you're trying to conceive, looking at nutrition, mental health, well-being, there's so many other things women and or even men, they can support each other during that journey. So that's definitely something we're looking at as the next stage of the business expansion.
I would like to switch for a moment to two questions from the chat. One is, I think, appropriate for Melinda, and that is about data privacy. Certainly a big topic in the US.
Yeah, so we have a policy of not sharing our users' data. We operate through the App Store, so we don't have any identifiers when it comes to their credit card or their payments. So everything goes to the App Store and also the Play Store. So we don't. So that's on the commercial side, and then on their side, so we are fully compliant with GDPR. And we cannot identify the woman on the platform. So there's no sort of personal identifying, like, you know, name, address, or anything like that we know. So what we do with the data,
do you de-identify, I assume?
Yes, we anonymize the data. Yeah, so we can say, right, looking at our data, that there's, you know, we've got 1.5 million women on our platform, right? So we can say, right, and, you know, how many women in week 23 did that many workouts, or what were their main complaints, or what were they tracking at that time? So we look at the data as a whole and extrapolate insights out of it. So we don't look at particular, you know, each person's data themselves. That's not really relevant to us. It's relevant as a data set.
But as you have people from different countries, are you able to break them down by country?
Yeah, we can tell where they come from. Yeah, definitely. Which also is very interesting, because it just helps us to see. I mean, we can also see where the trends are, like how many women are pregnant, you know, when there's birth spikes. We can also see seasonality is a huge thing as well. We can see the, you know, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, the behaviors are different at different times of the year. So it's really interesting. But I mean, we're absolutely compliant with all of the data compliance that we have to, and we're very, very strict about that. And we also don't have adverts, so we don't advertise anything on our platform. So we do not sell people's data. No one can get access to these women. I mean, we have, you know, whatever competitions or anything we have it over on Instagram. So we don't do anything in the app. And we have a premium model. So people come on and there's a lot free, and we still don't advertise. I mean, that at some point might have to change if we want to maintain that free offering, because it is expensive to run. But we have the premium offering, which a lot of our users opt in to buy.
So one of the questions in the chat is, what is the role of the community in commercializing your platform? Can you advise how to build a community as a digital health company? I will ask both of you to briefly answer the role of the community and how you curated and built and marketed and grew the community.
So I think, you know, from our perspective, a community is something that's really difficult to build, right? You can't just say, okay, I'm going to go and build a community. It's taken a lot of time, and we've done that through lots of different ways. So first of all, identifying exactly who we want to build a community for. So who are our users? What are their pain points? What do they need? What are they interested in? And how can we best serve them? So it's a matter of getting like-minded people together. So we've used sort of Facebook groups. We've also used social media, so Instagram, and we've created this community of followers. And we've also got women who get our newsletters even after they've given birth, like long after they've given birth, you know, when their babies are 3-4 years old. So I think it's been really interesting to keep them as part of that community as well. And it's been a really important part of it. So it takes a lot of time and effort. And I think for us, through social media and, you know, like really building up that community by delivering value to them through our blog, through our newsletters, through our Instagram, through our Facebook, and all of the other touch points that we have, has been painstakingly slow, but really worthwhile, because we have a very strong community of women who love what we do. They're advocates of ours, they're ambassadors, they bring on other women, they empower each other, they give us their stories. And it's just a really empowering community that's very positive, and it's bringing a lot of joy and a lot of positivity to this whole process.
And the common factor around this community is pregnancy. Is that correct?
Well, no, it's because we've got conception, pregnancy, and postpartum. So our journey goes right through.
Okay,
it's like a 6-year journey. Yeah,
it's all around.
But it's around reproduction.
It's around reproduction.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
it's
I
essentially,
assume I assume it's not assisted. The people, is it primarily people who are not seeking assisted reproduction?
Well, we don't differentiate. So there are people that come onto the platform that are, trying to conceive, but we wouldn't, we don't offer that assisted reproduction. We just help them on their lifestyle. So it's, it's kind of like the base layer that you need. You need to get your lifestyle in order. You need to eat well. You need to be, work on your mental health. You need to work on your fitness. And then we try and get them into the best possible state and optimize their existing health in order for them to conceive easier, and whichever way that is, if it's naturally or if it's through assistance.
So you're agnostic about that.
Yeah, that's another layer that we don't really do. So we concentrate at base layer of, and we are, like to Susan's point, we do give a lot of these things. So we have a huge amount of content, a huge amount of insights that these women get from us. So it is kind of that one-stop shop for all of these different things. And now with our new feature, which we track symptoms, and they can do their menstrual cycle tracking with us as well, it really is that sort of one place that they can come and know that they get expert advice. Everything's evidence-based, it's all science-backed, and they can also track everything and keep everything in the app as well. Right. So ultimately, we'd love to be the only pregnancy app or trying to conceive and postpartum that exists, right? Because we do everything.
But Carrie, so if I look at you, you're going deep into a subset, the assisted reproductive group. How do you do what is your commercialization strategy, and how have you grown?
Okay, yes, so, and actually this question linked to the community questions you asked. So I think for fertility sector, it's very different from the other area of medicine. It's very private. So, lots of women who have been experiencing infertility, they probably don't want to discuss it with sometimes even their family members. They want to keep it private. And then sometimes, they feel like even they talk this with their family members, they probably wouldn't get the right advice rather than just getting more pressure from the family members. So community is always the kind of plays a really important role for fertility patients. If you go to a Facebook support groups, also, if you look at our community, there's so many patients sharing all sorts of different experience there. Sometimes women, they get a failed cycle, they don't really know who they should talk to, and they just want to go to the community, just, share their experiences, they feel much better. And also, I think community is a way for us to build a trust with the patient as well. The more you can help patients through the community, and the more trust they can build with us. But the other thing we have been spending a lot of time to look at is how we can build a sustainable community. It's not just a community let people come to have a chat and then just leave the group. So for example, for fertility women, there's so many women at different stage coming to their journey, but ask exactly the same question. Give an example, someone is going to do egg collection tomorrow, and they're coming in to ask, what are the things I should be aware of before my egg collection day. And then 5 days later, another woman coming in asking exactly the same question. So for us, we've been spending a lot of time doing research to look at how we can get all of these kind of, community to provide more insights, where people, regardless where they are at their reproductive journey, they coming into the community, they can always find the right information, they can always find the right support. And then in the meantime, we are also working with other communities to trying to expand the business. So for example, recently we have been working with a charity the goal is to support men who experience miscarriage. Traditionally there's been lots of support for women who've been through fertility issues, but the person we are working with, he had personally, he had a miscarriage early this year, and he's trying to find support, but he couldn't find any for men. And then that's why he's created this kind of community. And it's amazing that only within a few weeks, he got over 10,000 of men joining his community from all different parts of the world. So that's kind of thing I think is really interesting. We're not just looking at how we support women, but providing insights, but also looking at other things around the woman. Women's partners equally, they need support as well.
Susan, back to the big company, the exit provider. Have you acquired any companies in the digital health space and integrated them into your ecosystem?
I have not recently been personally involved in any acquisitions like that. As folks probably know, we did a Baby Center was part of the J&J family up until 2-3 years ago, and a huge pregnancy support online asset. And in the end, it was sort of not a great fit for J&J. A great fit for moms, but not a great fit for J&J. We have supported some smaller companies through grants that have been acquired by other companies. We've provided some grants just recently. Alydia Health was acquired by Merck and then spun off in a new entity that they created. So I think the digital space is a little bit tricky for us as a products and services company, but that whole issue of synergy with existing product lines, I think, is a critical secret sauce for thinking about a company like Johnson & Johnson. We're so big, right, that anything we do has to be multiplicative with the assets that we already have. But certainly people inside of Johnson & Johnson are talking about digital intelligence and AI and, smart businesses. So this is something people are looking at, but I have not seen a huge wave of investment and acquisition, to be honest.
And would that be a make versus buy? I mean, would J&J want to create platforms internally to differentiate their somewhat commodity self-care products, or would they look to acquire companies that already have built a community?
I think if there's a really great external company that has done a great job building a community and has great connectivity in the self-care market, for instance, and that would be our over-the-counter consumer business, I think that would definitely be an attractive potential asset for Johnson & Johnson. Do we make our own digital ecosystems? Absolutely. We, in the last number of years, created an online digital platform called Nod, which was really about sleep health, but that had something synergistic with some sleep medications that we have both in our consumer business and pharmaceutical business. So I think if I were to sort of put myself on the outside of Johnson & Johnson and I wanted my company to be acquired, interestingly, my father did this as a business for many years and sold 2 different companies to Johnson & Johnson. And so I saw him do this, and what he did was he looked at the company and he said, Johnson & Johnson is in the orthopedics business and they have not solved this problem. So he solved the problem, he created the asset, and then he sold the business to Johnson & Johnson. He said, well, that was good, and then he did it again. So I think looking at the business and really thinking about where should J&J be, but they're not there yet because they have this business, but we're not a digital health company. But we need that kind of capability to be successful in the current world. That's how I would approach it. So I think I didn't answer your question, but tried to give some good direction.
Yeah, but you did give entrepreneurs who are looking at with a clean slate at where they want to go. I think that would be a good recipe for them. So Carrie, Maybe you can talk a little bit about the challenges during COVID. What was the direct impact on your business, and what was the impact on your community during COVID?
Yeah, I think COVID has had a massive impact on the fertility sector overall. Although the market demand is still very strong, regardless whether it's COVID or not, at the end of the day, if people still want to start their family, they will have to look at whether it's naturally or using fertility treatment. And most of the fertility clinics we're working with in the UK are running in full capacity. However, it has created huge uncertainties and also challenges for many fertility patients. So, for example, a large number of patients, especially the NHS-funded patients, has been putting on a long waiting list due to social distancing and also capacity issues. And it's also frustrating that a lot of them, they don't really know when they can start treatment again.
And this is a big issue if they're older in age.
Exactly.
Exactly. The time passing is a big deal, right? It's not just an annoyance, it's actually aging.
Exactly, especially for women who are over 40s, the later they leave it, then the less chance of success. And also it's a lot of people who need travel abroad for treatment for other reasons. For example, if they're looking for donor eggs or donor sperm, and they has been waiting for a long time as well to see when they can travel again. And also, because of COVID, there's lots of people lost their jobs. So funding fertility treatment privately has also becoming a kind of big challenge for many women and couples as well. For our business, I think the big change is that we moved everything digitally. All the consultations and all the support are provided online. However, we see this as a positive change. So it helps us to become more focused on our core businesses and also improve our process. I think it's also created lots of opportunities for us to expand globally as well.
Great. And Melinda, are you looking at other spaces, lifespan phases of a woman, like menopause, for example? I believe you mentioned that you're thinking, or you have Embody is maybe an app that's focusing on menopause?
Yeah, that's correct. So very soon we'll be rebranding the name of the company, which will be called Body Collective. Essentially so that we can bring out a new brand for the perimenopause and menopause. I think, women suffer from a lot of the same kinds of things, right? It's all hormonally driven, and there's uncertainty, there's a lot of misconceptions, there's myths, and there's not a lot of understanding about sort of how lifestyle factors can impact the way that you live through the perimenopause and the menopause. And I think, with this massive population that's going to be aging, it's a huge opportunity to help millions and millions of women. There's 860 million women going through the menopause by 2025. So, globally, it's a huge market. And I think, just that layer of assistance, and what we've done for pregnancy and postpartum and conception. So the whole reproductive phase, and we hear it from our audience all the time of how we've enhanced their lives and made this all so much more magical and manageable. And that's the same thing, and I personally really want to address that as our next step. So it's already in production, and we've been working on it for a couple of years now. So we will be bringing that out towards the end of the year. It's called Embody. We can follow us on Instagram, Embody Official, and also Baby to Body Official. And I'm looking forward to seeing and bringing that out to the market and seeing the impact that we can have.
We have just 2 more minutes. In a sentence, what is your big vision for Embody going forward?
So for me, this women's wellness platform that we're building, I would like every woman at every significant stage of their life to have the most up-to-date, personalized, relevant information and guidance on her health and wellness, so that she feels empowered and she can create the life that she wants to live herself. So that's my grand vision.
Great. And Carrie? Just a small vision, right? Carrie?
Yeah, so our vision is basically help anyone who wants to have a family to create healthy families.
Thank you. And now for J&J. Susan, I'm going to decouple you from being a spokesperson for J&J and say, if you were somebody who is Susan and you were looking at J&J, what would you like, since you're passionate about women's health, what would you like J&J to do in women's health? What would be the big idea that would make J&J a big player in women's health?
To me, look, I think reproductive health is enormously important, and there's so many great people working in that space. We started here talking about the needs for women in their general health, which I think would have a huge impact on fertility and pregnancy success, healthy pregnancies, healthy mothers, healthy babies. I think we really need to stop talking about the sex and gender gap in data and insights and understanding and start doing. I want to see J&J be a leader in sex disaggregated data and really understanding the real actionable differences from a business point of view between men and women.
Well said. Let's hope you can make J&J go the way you want them to go. And thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Melinda. And I'd like to, and thank you, audience, for persevering. Angela, may I just turn it over to you?
Yes, absolutely. I'd like to echo your thanks, Anula, and of course say thank you to you so much for the wonderful moderation and for all of the preparation that went in beforehand. Thanks, of course, to our panel, and thanks to our wonderful audience for watching and getting involved as well. Now, that's our last session for today. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you've had as good a day as we have. We've loved it, loved having you here. Tomorrow, we're looking at mental health and some really great sessions covering employee responsibility, CBD and other interventions like that, as well as some more diving deeper into our startup ecosystem as well. So we'll hope to see you back there at 12 o'clock British time tomorrow. But in the meantime, I will let you go, and I'll say thank you so much once again to Anula, our panel, and good night.